By the year 871, the land that would one day be called England did not exist as a single nation. It was a patchwork of independent Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, each proud, each armed, and each utterly unprepared for the storm that had crossed the North Sea a generation earlier. That storm had a name: the Great Heathen Army, a Viking force unlike anything Britain had faced before. This was not a raiding party looking for silver and slaves and a quick retreat home. This was an army that intended to stay, to conquer, and to rule. One by one, the ancient Anglo-Saxon kingdoms fell before it. Northumbria in the north was crushed, its last king killed in brutal fashion. East Anglia collapsed soon after, its king reportedly executed in a manner so violent it would be remembered in legend for centuries. Mercia, once the most powerful kingdom in Britain, was being torn apart piece by piece, its rulers reduced to puppets, paying tribute simply to survive another season. By 871, only one Anglo-Saxon kingdom remained standing between the Vikings and total conquest of the land: Wessex in the south. And Wessex itself was already bleeding. In this single year alone, chroniclers recorded no fewer than 9 major battles fought between the West Saxon army and the invading Vikings, an almost unbroken 12 months of warfare, ambush, and desperate defense. Villages were burned. Armies were exhausted before winter even arrived. It was into this chaos, this uncertainty, this year of relentless dying, that a young man named Alfred was suddenly thrust onto the throne. His older brother, King Athelred, had led Wessex through much of this brutal fighting, but the strain proved fatal. Athelred died in the spring of 871, likely from wounds or illness worsened by the endless campaigning, leaving the crown to his younger brother. Alfred was 22 years old. He had spent years as a prince fighting alongside his brother against the Vikings, but nothing could have prepared him for inheriting a kingdom in the very middle of its most desperate hour. There was no coronation feast, no peaceful transition of power, no moment to grieve his brother or celebrate his rise. Alfred's very first act as king was to lead his exhausted, battered army into yet another confrontation with the Vikings, this time at a place called Wilton. It did not go well. The West Saxon forces were narrowly defeated, a bitter blow for a king barely weeks into his reign. Wessex, the last kingdom standing, now stood on the edge of the same fate that had already swallowed Northumbria, East Anglia, and Mercia. Alfred faced an impossible choice. Faced with a battered army, a treasury strained by years of war, and an enemy that showed no sign of retreating on its own, Alfred made a decision that would have shamed a lesser man, but which, in hindsight, proved to be one of the most consequential choices in early English history. He paid the Vikings to leave. It was not a victory. It was not even a truce born of mutual respect. It was survival purchased with silver, a humiliating arrangement that many of his own nobles likely viewed as an admission of weakness from their new, untested king. Yet Alfred understood something his enemies did not yet grasp. Wessex was not finished, only wounded, and wounded kingdoms that survive can heal, rebuild, and return stronger than before. The payment bought Wessex something far more valuable than pride. It bought time. Time for Alfred to reorganize his forces. Time to study how the Vikings fought, how they moved, how they struck without warning and vanished before a proper defense could be mounted. Time to begin quietly reshaping how his kingdom prepared for war, laying early groundwork for reforms that would later transform Wessex's ability to resist invasion for good. None of this was visible yet in 871. To most observers, all that had happened was that a young, untested king had lost a battle and paid off his enemies, rather than face them with honour. There was no indication yet that this same king would, within a decade, become known across Britain as Alfred the Great, the only Anglo-Saxon monarch in history to earn that title. There was no sign yet that he would one day be remembered as the man who saved the English language, English law, and English identity from being erased entirely beneath Viking rule. In 871, Alfred was simply a king clinging to the last unconquered corner of a shattered land, buying a fragile peace he knew could not last. The Vikings withdrew from Wessex that year, but everyone understood this was only a pause, not an ending. Guthrum, the Viking leader who would come to dominate this conflict, was still out there, still ambitious, still watching Wessex and waiting for the right moment to strike again. Alfred knew it too. The humiliating peace of 871 was not the end of the war. It was merely the first breath Wessex managed to draw before the true fight for its survival and the eventual survival of England itself truly began.